Diego border. We are aware now, according to the organizers of this caravan, that a group is going to amass and march peacefully to illegally cross at the port of entry there in Tijuana.
We are aware because Griff is aware. He's done amazing reporting with the caravan from the very beginning. He's in touch with one of the top organizers just this morning who said they're massing in the stadium. We don't know how many yet. Planning to march, he says, peacefully to this port of entry in San Diego at 9 o'clock Pacific time, which is noon Eastern time, just 3 hours from now. They say peacefully, but other passages have not been so peaceful. We don't know how many it will be, and they're planning to carry banners that say open the gates. What happens if those gates aren't open? And as we've said, this first showdown is going to have a ripple effect for the remainder of that caravan, for future caravans, for the perception of this president's policy, how strong he stood. You've got troops with new capabilities backing up the Border Patrol.
Right.
Said they can't enter. There's a new arrangement we heard last night that asylum seekers will not be allowed in. They have to wait in Mexico. So a lot of moving parts that could come to a head in just 3 hours.
The president making this not just an American issue at the border, he's created the situation so that this is now a Mexican problem as well. Here's a tweet from him. He says it would be very smart. Yeah, just a few minutes ago. It would be very smart if Mexico would stop the caravans long before they get to our southern border, or if originating countries would not let them form. It is a way for them to get certain people out of their country and dump in U.S. no longer. Dems created this problem. No crossings. Very interesting situation, as you said. Just 3 hours from now, we're going to see what happens. We've had Border Patrol agents or a director here at our studio or in our interviews here saying this caravan is unlike others.
That's right, and we had Jason Piccolo on just a little bit earlier, who has been both an ICE agent and a Border Patrol agent. Here's what he said about the caravan today. Listen.
It's going to be a mess. I mean, that's one of the busiest land ports we have in the world. Right now, the caravan is filled with migrants, from what we believe. Now, if you introduce other bad actors in there, there's definitely going to be violence at the border. We need to stop this traffic before it gets to the United States.
And, you know, to his point, and as you were saying earlier, Pete, it sends a signal, right? This is the test of this caravan coming, but it's going to send a message to all the ones in the waiting as to how it's handled, to say, hey, come on, send the rest. Because there's a political one we see on Facebook of this organizing group, Pueblo Sin Fronteras, that they're intending to carry signs too that say, abre las puertas, which means open the gates. They're making a political statement along with making an illegal act if they cross.
And remember, this is all being organized by an organization called Pueblo Sin Fronteras, which means people without borders. You're right. This is a political message. And for those who don't know, there are more caravans forming and waiting to come. So, yes, this is a test, and we'll see what message it sends to those that are forming and on their way right now.
That's right. We had Michelle Malkin on the program earlier, and as
Blow them up.
she summed this situation up very nicely. Listen.
This is a mob. It's not just a quote-unquote caravan of economic migrants who are intent on sabotaging our laws to get jobs. And what we're talking about here is a systematic and planned manipulation and abuse of our asylum system.
Now, let me give some context here, because I did spend 13 days in the caravan down on the Guatemala-Mexico border. They came all the way through southern Mexico to Mexico City, and now they're in Tijuana. This is one of the organizers of Pueblo Sin Fronteras telling me that they are intending to organize this group to sort of take a first step. It's not, you know, a lot of people characterize it as an invasion, and there's a lot of talk about that, whether it is or isn't, but it is at least a test in a group of Central Americans largely that are looking to push the political boundaries of the administration's position. We're going to see that played out. And
it's like the Night of the Living Dead, dude. They're like zombies.
The agent that we just put out soundbite. Hopefully there is no violence, but you have to factor in that the mayor of Tijuana, Mayor Gastelum, has also said that he's not going to have it. He is refusing to allow Tijuana citizens to bear the brunt of this. So there's a lot of factors here that it is, at very minimum, you can say it's a very intense situation.
Yeah, we had the acting deputy director who confirmed that right now there are around 6,000 migrants in Tijuana, more on the way. We don't know how many of them will be attempting to go to that port of entry today. But you used the word invasion. It's been used by some. If there's a huge mass of people carrying banners or flags from their countries coming toward shielded Border Patrol agents, and it's not handled peacefully, that's not going to look like much other than that.
But not fair, because of the, you know, there are a number of Central Americans who left their country because of poverty, because of crime, and they have been making making this march for decades. The problem now is that it was so much smaller then and somewhat manageable. 4 months ago, we had a group of about 1,200 of a caravan that came. Only 200 or 300 got to this port of entry in San Ysidro to be processed. And so
there's also why it's different, though.
Michelle Malkin's made a very clear point. The criteria for seeking asylum cannot be economic. It has to be that you are being politically or religiously persecuted.
Credible fear.
Or credible fear. And so that's a question. And the Mexican government right now is having to deal with so much pressure because they know that there's a threat from President Trump to shut down the border. They know that they have the citizens of Mexico, not just in Tijuana, but in so many of the towns where the caravans come, saying we don't have the resources, there's an increase in crime, and yet he's a populist he's kind of a pro-immigrant populist politician who ran on that. This thing is so dynamic.
Yeah, that's right. Griff, what makes a difference in my mind is that and Michelle Malkin said it, it's a planned manipulation of our asylum system. They know if they get on our soil and say the A word, asylum, that they will be brought in, maybe come back for their court date, as you've talked about.
Yeah.
So when you know they're flaunting and manipulating your laws, and you know they're coming in illegally, call it what you want. It's a different situation than decades ago. And as you've covered so well, thousands and thousands makes it an eminent
problem. And if you talk to Border Patrol agents, remember, even last year, guys, I would be reporting from you from the border in Texas, right down there in the RGV, the heaviest trafficked area. And those agents were saying from the very beginning, it is the loopholes with Congress. It is the catch and release that is going to come to a head one day. It feels very much like we are getting closer and closer to that day.
Well, that's what President Trump wants to do. He wants to end catch and release. He wants to say, listen, if you're seeking asylum, you're going to wait on the Mexican side of the border, and we'll look at your case, but you're not going to come to our side of the border, go out in the general population, and then we just hope you come back for your court date 3 years later.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't know that that's what was happening.
Well, there's been a huge education
it has been
going on in this nation for the last couple of years, no doubt.
Feel to you that President Trump could do no more? I mean, he really has mustered from the asylum to the manpower issue to how he's handling and the messaging trying to send to enlist the Mexican government. There's really hard to imagine that he could do more to try.
I think he's doing everything he can. He needs partners in Congress.
What's fascinating is what will soon-to-be expected Speaker Pelosi and the Democrats do to solve this?
Probably not solve it.